Samantha from Jessima Tutorials here, and today is another video where I will use a classic Australian bird as inspiration for my polymer clay project. Today I'm going to be using the Galah parrot as a inspiration, or the Galah Cockatoo. There should be a photo on screen for that, and yes, you can see they have beautiful silver and pink feathers, and I just thought that was perfect as a launching point for a pair of polymer clay earrings. Now, what I am going to be using here is Primo polymer clay, and the colours are as follows: silver, champagne pearl, coral, mauve and magenta. Feel free to use less colours than what I'm using. The important parts are a silver or grey colour, a pink colour and a light pink colour. So you could mix up your own if you wanted to. Now, I've run these all out on the setting of my pasta machine that gives me a piece that is 1mm thick, and this is because I want the earrings to be quite thin. Now, I'm going to start with the silver, and I'm just going to place that down, and I'm going to be creating a Bargello today. And I haven't done one of those in quite a while, and I think this is a perfect time to use it. So I'm going to grab these two colours, and I'm going to start by just trimming them up so that they have a nice straight edge to begin with, like so. And then the process beyond that is quite simple. You're going to start with the silver, and the silver is what I want the dominant colour to be. So I'm going to cut thicker pieces of that, and then when I get to this kind of purplish pink colour, I'm going to cut thinner pieces. And then just place them down together, like so. And then you're just going to take those and you're going to alternate the colours. And I just will press it down onto my work surface. I'm using a glass tile. You could use a glazed ceramic one as well. And you're just going to continue alternating as I am showing right here. And it is completely up to you how you do that. Feel free to mess around with it. But after about, I think I'm going to add one more strip, thinning out the silver a little bit. Just a little bit. I'll cut that again because that's a little too thick. Then I'm going to start working in the next colour, which is going to be the magenta, and I'm just going to replace the silver because I'm not going to be using that again, and I will replace it with that magenta colour. And just make sure that these are pressed down. And this is the first step for the Bargello. We haven't actually got to that pattern part yet. And then I'm going to start working in the magenta. And then you're going to continue with this kind of purple colour, the mauve. And the mauve is always going to be a just a light accent of a colour. I'm not too concerned about it being a particularly strong colour. Then I'm going to grab the coral and I'm going to start working that in as well. And if it falls off your blade, you can also just place it down by hand. And I'm just going to continue doing this. I might provide a sped up version of this. But yeah, I'm going to just continue doing this as I am until I get to the point where I've got mostly this hanging out at the top of this. Alright, and I did actually end up doing it again because the other one I found that the stripes were a little too thick for my liking, especially since I'm going to be making quite small earrings. So I did end up doing that again, if you've noticed that the stripes have gotten thinner. But now, once you've done that, you're going to grab a piece of paper and you're going to burnish over the top in the same direction as the stripes so that you keep everything nice and straight. And this is just going to bond everything together for the next step, which is where we're actually going to create the Bargello. Now, a quick side note, since I find this technique to be quite useful for any kind of scraps that you may have lying around, you can create a polymer clay marble, which is where you bunch a bunch of clay together, especially scraps in my case, and you would create a marble by taking those scraps, rolling them, twisting it together, rolling it out, and then it will create a kind of striped piece of clay. You could replace this with that and then do the Bargello effect, which is what I'm going to show you in just a moment. So if you have a lot of scraps that are lying around and you're not really sure what to do with them, that is one way that you can use them, and I have shown how to do that in the past on one of my videos. But there we go, that is what you want to start out with, and then from there it's much the same thing, and I'm going to do it from this direction, and let me just move this so that you can see better. There, that's a bit better. Right, and you're going to just start from one end. It doesn't really matter which end you start from, and you're going to take a slice and you're going to push that out the way, pop that down, take another slice, and try to keep these even. It doesn't matter too much if they're not completely even, but you're going to take another one and you're just going to move it slightly down from the last, and then you're going to continue that process of taking a slice, moving it down, and you can do that as far as you want, but I'm going to do probably that should be enough pieces, and then you can start working up again so that you get a zigzag pattern. And again, I'm going to do a time lapse of this so that you can see it in action. But yes, this is quite a fun technique, and you can be very precise with it, or in my case I'm not too worried about being precise. Also, I am going to be flattening mine out. You could keep the texture. It gives the same kind of effect that you would have on fabric that's sewn in this way, so it can be quite a fun texture to play with. Where there you can see how that is coming along. And once you've done that, then you can leave it the way it is, though if you choose not to burnish at this point, I would recommend placing it on a piece of backing clay, because the pieces aren't going to be well stuck together. In my case, I do want to give it a burnish. I'm just going to place a piece of paper over the top, and I'm very lightly going to burnish again in the direction of those lines that I cut, so the opposite way in which I was going before. And I'm not going to burnish it so that it is perfectly flat. I want the impression of those lines still, but I am going to burnish it to the point where the texture is not going to be a huge part of the design. Alright, and that should just about do. And I'll run my hand over the top. I need to go a little bit longer. And once that's smoothed out, I'm going to bring over my cutters, and they're going to be these cute little droplet pieces, and they I'm going to position so that the silver is the top of the drop. I'm going to capture all the colours at once. Okay, and this is my largest drop. I should probably do that over here. Just making sure that I have it on all of the colours. Then give that a press, and that's our largest piece, so I'm only going to cut out one of those. Then I'll grab another one, again making sure that I get all of the colour. I don't want to overlap it on the other one. Okay, to press. Grab the next one. And again, going to try to capture all of the colour. There we go. Then I will repeat on the other side. And this is enough for one earring, and of course you could take out more pieces if you want to, but I just need this number. And at this point I'm just going to roll up the clay. It is quite firmly stuck to the tile. I'm just going to roll it up around the pieces. Also, this clay, because it was pure colour to begin with, is perfect for creating that marble effect that I was talking about earlier. So you could recycle it into that if you wanted to. And I'm not using a blade to pick this up because I don't want to accidentally smoosh my pieces. And if you want to avoid this, you can always cut them out on a piece of paper, though the clay might stick in the cutters. So this is the other way to do it. And there we go. Then just grab your tissue blade and go up underneath each one and lift it up, and then just gently tap around the edges to smooth out any leftover clay. Okay, and you can see it's a tiny little thing. And then I'm going to place that on a piece of paper. Okay, and there we go. I've done two different pieces, or I've done one earring and then another earring. You can try to make them mirror if you want to, but I've decided to go with the opposite, with the arrow pointing down on the one and then the arrow pointing up on the other one. But again, you could also make a Bargello that is big enough to fit both of them. These are now going to go into the oven for about 40 minutes at Primo's recommended temperature, and once they are baked, they will get a very light sand, and then we should be able to assemble. And once they're out of the oven, you can decide whether you want to sand the edges or not. These ones have come out pretty clean, so I'm not going to worry about sanding them. And so once you've done the sanding, or if you've decided against sanding, you can then move on to drilling them. And all you're going to do is just drill right near the top of the piece, leaving about 1/2 millimeter on either side. And I'm using a very small drill bit. I can't remember exactly what size this is, but use the one that you're comfortable with. And as you can see, that goes through very quickly and easily. And then you're going to repeat that process for all the other ones. And then once you've drilled them, you're going to grab a small jump ring. I'm using silver because I want to echo the silver at the tops of these pieces. And then you're just going to place that through the hole. And close it back up, and that's the process that you will do for all of them. And once that's done, then we can start assembling the earrings. Then you're going to use a selection of beads, and I've decided to go with these matte silver seed beads, and they're quite large, but they're still seed beads. And then I also have some white ones for later. I will use those in a little bit. For now, I'm just going to work with the silver. And I'm going to string these on a length of Acuflex. And let me just bring that over so you can see what it's called and what size it is. This I got from Fire Mountain Gems and Beads, along with the seed beads that I'm using today and the earring findings. And I'm going to work on the spool, that way I don't end up using more than I need. And I'm going to start by placing on 2 of the beads, and then a piece, 2 more of the beads, and then for the next one after this, because the gap between these two is bigger, or because I need more of a gap between those two to have them lie comfortably, I will put 3 seed beads between those, and I'll show you what I mean in just a moment. There we go. And then I'll just lay this out. Okay. in there. Between these ones there needs to be a little bit more of a gap because it's a little bit more of a curve for the pieces to go around. So I'd recommend putting 3 beads, then 2, then another 2. And that is how I would go. I would repeat the whole thing, and I'm actually just going to show you the whole thing. I'm not going to cut off. Feel free to skip on ahead if you would like, but I feel like sometimes it's useful to show the entirety of the process. And I'm going with the matte seed beads. I did try out metal to begin with, but I found that clashed with the clay too much, so that's why I'm using the matte finish. You could also make your own beads from polymer clay if you wanted to. There we go, and I have a couple spare beads over here. Right, and that should do. Put those to the side, I can pack those away in a bit, and let me just spool that out, and there you can see how that would look. If you wanted to make a really small necklace, that could also work. Then at this point I am going to trim away the extra wire, and actually no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put on the seed beads first, and they are white ones this time around, and I'm going to be putting on 15 seed beads, or 15 of the white seed beads on the one side. Then once I have strung those guys on, then I can see how much wire I'm going to need. So I'm essentially completing 1/2 of the piece first, and there you can see how that's looking so far. Okay, and there we go, that's how it looks so far. Then I'm going to trim away the extra wire. Make sure you leave yourself a little bit of extra to work with, because this isn't the only thing that we're going to do. I need to do a little bit at the top, so you want to make sure you have enough wire to work with. Then you're going to count out another 15 beads on the other side. And then I'm going to show you how to do a cool little loop effect for your earring. Then, once you've counted out the correct number, you're going to take another seed bead and you're going to thread the wire through one way. Then you're going to grab the opposite wire and you're going to go through the opposite way. And let me just, this can be a little tricky. I want to see if I have a bead that has a big enough hole here. So just bear with me for one moment while I get that through. Might need to get myself a bigger holed bead. Let me try this one over here. One way, and then through the other way. There we go, that's much better. And then you're going to pull opposite sides until you create a loop. And don't pull tight, it's supposed to be a little loose. And I'm just going to rearrange these so that they're all sitting correctly. But there, that is how it should look. Okay, then I'm going to string 3 beads on each side, like so. And then I have taken another seed bead and I've strung it through, I've strung both cords through the exact same direction. And then you're going to pull that down. And this bead is a little tight, but you want to pull that down so it's just sitting on the top like that. Again, don't do it too tight, you want things to be a little loose. Then move that out the side. And then you're going to bring over a cord end, jump, a ear wire, and a crimp bead. And I'm using silver. And you're going to pop the cord end on, and you're going to string that through both cords. You're going to do the same with the crimp bead, stringing it through both cords. Then grab your pliers and let me try to get this so that you can see. You're just going to grab that bead and just push it down so that everything's lining up. Don't crimp that bead until you're happy with how everything looks. And I'm not happy with how everything looks. I'm going to pull that down a little more and even it out. Okay, and then I'm going to try to get it so that I can show you how that looks. I'm sorry, it's so fiddly. There we go, you grip the crimp and then you press, and that will squish down onto the cord, locking everything in place. Then you're going to take a pair of pliers and snip away those excess tails of cord. And close that cord end over the top, bringing those loops together. Then you're going to grab your ear wire or a jump ring, and you're going to loop that through the cord end's loops and close it up, and that should give you your earring. And let me just show you there, whoops, how it looks. And there we go, you can see how that looks, and it is completely double-sided because of the way that we did that Bargello. And I have already done the other one. And there we go, that's how the two of them look. And I'm quite happy with how that turned out. It's definitely different from the ones that I have made before. I've never really done this kind of effect with the seed beads. But yeah, that is just about it. If you enjoyed it, please do let me know in the comments below. This one was a lot of fun. Let me know if it matches the creature that I used as inspiration. And also a quick note, this is a really good project for if you are just starting with polymer clay, because it is just using clay. You don't need any special supplies or tools. You don't really need to sand. You don't need any kind of sealants because it is all polymer clay. Really all you need is a clay, the oven, a drill, and then something to actually finish off the ear wire. But yeah, so that is something to consider if you are just starting out, and as you can see, I think it's quite effective. Now, if you like the video, leave a like and subscribe, as I do videos like this just about every single day. And if you would like to support the channel, please do consider becoming a patron or a member. There's a link to my Patreon account in the description below, and there is a join button to become a member on YouTube just below this video. Both are great ways to support the channel while looking at some videos that are not available on YouTube and are exclusive to Patreon and the YouTube membership. Both of them are exactly the same, so either one is greatly appreciated. Another way to support the channel is to check out my Etsy store, Jessima Design. There is a link to that in the description below, where I sell things such as the cutter that I used in today's video. But yeah, that is just about it. If you have any suggestions for other birds that you would like to see me use as inspiration for polymer clay, let me know in the comments. I'm always open to suggestions, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.